7 o'clock exactly. Then we'll start that out with the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
I learned that little video.
We'll do introductions. Roll call. I'm Tammy Higgins. I'm the chair. And then we'll start with Mary. Mary, who's recording secretary?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sherry Van White, secretary.
Thank you, everybody. We're going to do approval to the agenda or modifications. I did want to add at communications, I got a letter today, just today, and at 2:07, from one of our residents, and I will try to, it's lengthy, I will try to read it relatively quickly or at least summarize it. So I'd like to add that. And then also, just so the public knows, you know, I try to get our agenda out within 10 days of the meeting. And so I did this on the weekend before April 1st, and then on Monday, April 1st, I got more information that we got some supplemental rezoning conditions from DTE. So they are here to talk today, so I think we'll put them under new business and we can discuss that. So I'd like to add that if everyone's okay.
I move to approve the agenda with additions.
Thank you. So Sherry moves and Miller seconds. Thank you. Motion passed. Are all in favor? Aye. Yeah. Okay.
Good.
So here a second.
I'll second.
Miller first, Patty Dunn seconds, the minutes from March. All in favor? Thank you. Okay, so. The next item we're going to, I guess, talk about is communications. I got a letter from Joel Buurma regarding to the Iosco Planning Commission and the Board of Trustees. So I'm going to read it if everyone wants me to read it, or I can summarize it. It is long. He just asked that on behalf of Buurma Farms, he's thanking us for our time and continued effort on the solar ordinance. He understands it has not been an easy process. They've been following the developments closely, reviewing the meeting minutes and listening to the community and the discussions. The ongoing uncertainty is making it difficult for them to plan and invest and inform their decisions and the future operations of their land. They are respectful of our thoughts. Processes. He has concerns that it's been 2.5 years of discussion and there's been no new fact-based objections have been raised. And he says the core concerns continue to be focused on aesthetics and theoretical impacts on property values, not on substantiated health, safety, or welfare issues. He said from their perspective, there's objections that appear to stem from misinformation or assumptions. He says if residents were presented with direct comparison, a state-cited project with 50-foot setbacks, no screening, and sound limits of 55 decibels at the home versus what DTE is offering locally, which includes much larger setbacks, 45 decibel limits at the fence line, ensuring no audible impacts on homes, and personalized screening. He says it's hard to imagine anyone would prefer that state approach. Some may also be hoping that the state law will be reversed or delayed, but he says DTE files an application this year that the Michigan Public Service Commission could approve that project within 12 months with no local say in how it's shaped. And he says that scenario directly contradicts the intent behind Iosco Township joining the lawsuit to keep local control. He says you've heard from signed landowners, from projects and opponents, and from very few others, even though there have been full-page ads taken out, mailers by the township signs in the yards and coffee chats sponsored by the opposition. He says perhaps the silence reflects the neutrality of trust, a belief that private landowners should have the right to use their land responsibly. Most residents likely don't see this as something that affects them directly, and most, in our view, don't believe they should be able to dictate how their neighbors run their businesses or manage their land. That is a deeply American principle. The board now has the opportunity to ensure the local control remains intact, that solar is a legal land use in the state of Michigan, and if people believe it shouldn't be, their argument belongs in Lansing, not at the township level. What's being asked of this board now is not to permit solar broadly, but to consider the rezoning of land already included in the approved overlay parcels that, for procedural reasons, weren't mapped in the final ordinance. And he says, additionally, we understand that the other area now under consideration, roughly 300 acres of panels, was introduced at the request of the township in exploring limiting future development by other developers. DTE, from what we understand, agreed to include the land in good faith to help address those concerns. He says if rezoning is approved, residents who still disagree will have the opinion to gather signatures and bring the question to a ballot. A yes vote empowers the broader community to decide. A no vote, however, removes the opportunity for that public vote and instead blocks landowners from moving forward with a legal use of their land. We are simply asking for fairness and urge you to take action, vote yes, and allow this process to move forward. Thank you, Joel Buurma. Okay. I read the communications.
We didn't hear back here, nobody did, everything you read. So,
We
yeah,
can,
maybe you should have made copies for everybody to read. None of us knew what you were talking about.
you want me to stand up and read it again? Real loud?
It should be loud.
I'll do it word for word.
Yep.
Iosco Township Planning Commission Board of Trustees, on behalf of Buurma Farms, thank you for your time and your continued effort on the solar ordinance. We recognize this has not been an easy process and appreciate your commitment to carefully consider all sides. We followed developments closely, reviewing meeting minutes, listening to the community discussions, and staying informed through local conversations. While we appreciate the progress that has been made, we remain without a clear path forward. As business owners and landowners, this ongoing uncertainty makes it difficult to plan, invest, or make informed decisions about the future of our land and operations. We respect the importance of thoughtful decision-making and fully support the board's effort to weigh community input. However, after 2.5 years of discussion, no new or fact-based objections have been raised. The core concerns continue to focus on aesthetics and theoretical impacts on property values, not on substantiated health, safety, or welfare. From our perspective, many of the objections appear to stem from misinformation or assumptions. If residents were presented with a direct comparison, a state-cited project with 50-foot setbacks, no screening, and sound limits of 55 decibels at the home versus what DTE is offering locally, which includes much larger setbacks, 45 decibel limits at the fence line, ensuring no audible impact at the homes, and personalized screening, it is hard to imagine anyone would prefer the state approach. Yet it is easy to say, send it to the state, when some assume that it won't actually happen. Some may also be hoping the state law will be reversed or delayed. But if DTE files an application this year, the Michigan Public Service Commission could approve the project within 12 months, with no local say in how it's shaped. That scenario directly contradicts the intent behind Iosco Township joining the lawsuit to keep local control. You've heard from signed landowners, from project opponents, and from very few others. Even though there have been whole page ads taken out, mailers sent to the township, signs in yards, and coffee chants sponsored by the opposition. Perhaps that silence reflects neutrality or trust, a belief that private landowners should have the right to use their land responsibly. Most residents likely don't see this as something that affects them directly, and most, in our view, don't believe they should be able to dictate how their neighbors run their businesses or manage their land. That's a deeply American principle. The board now has the opportunity to ensure that local control remains intact. Solar is a legal land use in the state of Michigan. If people believe it shouldn't be, their argument belongs in Lansing, not at the township level. Whew. What's being asked of this board now is not to permit solar broadly, but to consider the rezoning of land already included in the improved overlay parcels that, for procedural reasons, weren't mapped in the final ordinance. Additionally, we understand that the area now under consideration, roughly 300 acres of panels, was introduced at the request of the township to explore limiting future development by other developers. DTE, from what we understand, agreed to include that land in good faith to help address those concerns. If the rezoning is approved, residents who still disagree will have the option to gather signatures and bring the question to a ballot. A yes vote empowers the broader community to decide. A no vote, however, removes the opportunity for that public vote and instead blocks landowners from moving forward with a legal use of their land. We simply are asking for fairness and urge you to take action, vote yes, and allow this process to move forward. Thank you, Joel Buurma. Okay? Is everyone here?
Thank you.
You're welcome. I did so good in elementary school reading out loud. Okay, so that was our one communication letter. Any conversations about that? I'm just read it.
Are you having conversations about it?
No.
Okay.
Maybe in my head, but, and the next thing I'd like to move on to would be our first call to the public. And you'll have 3 minutes to speak. So I will open it up, and we have a large crowd. So I will go row by row. I think I will start in the, I'll start in the back. So anyone in the back row? Would you like to speak at the first call to the public?
Hold on, I have
I'm just starting from the back because I sometimes think people...
My name's Mike Hauser. I'm here, which we all know why I'm here. I'm worried about not Burma's property values and what to do with the land. I'm worried about my property values and my hazardous material that's right in front of me and behind me. That's why I'm here. Next.
Okay. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Anybody?
Call me out there.
Okay. It's my opinion that the vote should not be cast today. It's my understanding that DTE will be presenting an amendment to their application. I don't think that that would allow you time to review the additions to the proposal that they're giving, and that should be taken into consideration thoroughly to make sure that there's no loopholes or anything like that was protected. I think it should be reviewed by an attorney or the land planner. I find it interesting that we don't have representation here for such an important issue, but yet we brought in the land planner to review the sign ordinance that we have. So why that merits more weight than this is a little confusing to me. Speaking towards the comment that Sherry had made at the last meeting and Mr. Buurma in his letter about going to state citing, if you vote no, it takes away the reasoning for being involved in the lawsuit that we're part of. The converse to that would be true as well. Why would we make a decision if we're petitioning to have rights to vote? So I don't believe that we should be making decisions either way in the spirit of arguments that's being posed here. Lastly, I would like to point out that if you approve it, you're setting precedent within the community, and I understand that you're limiting it to a couple of requests from a few of the farmers, but I do understand that there's other farmers in the community that are also considering leases or having signed leases, and I do believe that DTE is limiting what their scope is, but my question is then, how does that stop Ranger from coming in to those farmers? And if a precedent is set, how do you allow some people to do it, but tell others that they can't? I feel like that opens you to a lawsuit, and we are going to be daisy chaining solar panel farms across our community, across Michigan, and it's all gonna start right here. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anyone else in the last row?
Diana McFadden, I would just like to say that I would ask that you vote no against approving anything right now and wait and see, go to state citing.
Okay. Anyone else in the back row?
I'm also urging that everyone vote no, and especially right now while everything's changing. The majority just voted for Trump administration to get away from all this. They want to change. They want to get away from this renewable crap. That's just.
You're here.
That's all, and that's all behind us now with the last administration. Now it's a new change for change. People voted for change to get away from this stupid idea of, I mean, for acres and acres of solar farms to produce how much energy? When we can, now they're even improving on coal powered plants, that's clean energy through water filtration and everything. We don't need all this, and that can be done on just a couple of acres that and instead you want to drive by and look at solar farms and mile after mile of solar farms, we're going to look back and go, why didn't we do something about it? I'm hoping that everybody votes no and delay it because we want change.
I'm a no vote too. This would be, I'm on Gregory Road, it would be straight across the street. That farm field there right now has a drain this big, comes off that field and goes right into our front yard. It's a low spot, which we don't care, we let the drain commission do it. We was gonna do a lawsuit because it wasn't there originally when we first moved there 30 years ago, but they did it. And the supervisor, it was Pete then, he went ahead and had the road commission, put in a great big one, fixed it nice for us, but it drains right into our property. And I sure don't want that solar stuff coming down our property.
Thank you.
And the noise,
Anyone else in that back row?
and the heat from it.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else in the back row? All right, the next row. Starting with you, sir, we'll just go on down. Anyone? Go ahead, Greg.
I just,
No, Todd, I said Greg, but go ahead. If you guys work it out.
we kinda got a road.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I just wanna encourage you to say no, especially if they're doing amendments. You need time to look at it, see what's going on with that. But my vote is a no on okaying it. I say go ahead and fight it all the way to the end. Then I go to state, we'll fight the state. Yes, sir.
We'll let Greg go in and then you can go, okay?
I just wanted to update the sheets that I gave you. I know, Alan, you didn't get one last week, but just in the points I wanted to make was, the point of interest in this, I made 3 major points. The point of interest is prime farmland is more valuable than solar farms. And what I tried to do is give you a picture of Central Park, where Central Park, New York has 843 acres. And the proposal by DTE is actually going to be 2.5 times that, and we'll have 2.5 times Central Park sitting in our backyard. That's point 1. And then there's obviously some other points that go along with that. The second one was, I don't know if small town America, if the evaluations really have gone through, but you need to look at the benefits, the financial benefits and the other benefits that's going to cost us. So I tried to put down some things from a tax perspective, from a tax equity point of view. I also put down some interesting points for some individuals that may be looking at selling leasing their land. Because typically if you read these leases, they have a call sort of a put after 5 years. So you get the revenue, but you also get the taxes that you have to pay for it. So, but on the other side, DT for the first 5 years gets what we call tax attributes. They get all the benefits of the tax attributes because they don't want the revenue. They get the revenue in years 6 through 25. And typically what they do is they might have a buyout in year 6 for you. So when you're looking at your leases, I would strongly encourage that you look at get some tax accountant on your side to look at the paperwork. Make sure you didn't sign up for something that you didn't mean to sign up for. The last thing is political landscape is changing. So a couple things. Obviously, we've got strong support from Jason Woolward. I've included his letter that he sent me in terms of his position on this. I think Ann can help with that. You know, we're obviously participating in the lawsuit, so that's extremely good. Livingston County Board of Commissioners stand declaring its unequivocal support to local control over state control. And then lastly, the GOP lawmakers, I'm sure everyone saw it in the news and views, GOP lawmakers are pushing to repeal the 2023 law. So I think there's a lot in terms of things that have changed for 2.5 years, and I get it, that's 2.5 years is a long time to be talking about something, but I would encourage you guys to continue pushing through this and making sure you're looking at every angle. And I know it's you don't want to ever rubber stamp anything, but you want to continue to look at it. And I know we all appreciate your help and effort, but this is a tough one. This is a long haul, and you gotta work through it. So I'll just give you guys these, and I'll leave you alone. Thank you.
Thank you. Ann, go ahead.
I'm Ann. I live across the road from one of the projects. I would encourage the board to pause making a decision until the litigation is, that you have signed up for regarding local control and your voice. I don't think that there should be a decision made until that litigation has been decided. That's my opinion.
Thank you. Me? Yeah, I guess we're on that road now, yeah.
Hey, Deb. I'm standing. Debbie Hofstad. Sorry, I'm saying. So a couple things I want to address on here too. I suspect the commission, I would hope the commission is not going to be voting on DTE's proposal tonight because I know that they are looking to offer some additional concessions to their application, so that needs to take into account. A couple things I do want to address on Mr. Buurma's letter. I appreciate his perspective. The coffee chats, for clarification, were not by the opposition. There is no opposition. Those were informational meetings where we had planning commission members as well as 2 board members there to share information for those who have not been up to date. Also, Facebook stuff, holy cow. Come on, we are a civil township. I mean, people get emotional on the Facebook things, rightly so, but we're still a township, and we are residents for each other. I just caution everybody for what goes out there. Also, whoever's putting out there that it was 75% of the coffee chat group that were within 300 foot of the perimeter of this, yeah, that was not correct. 75%, there was no official vote, it was not even near 75% that were there, and several of you were there as well. Additionally, in that letter, perhaps the silence of others in the community indicates acceptance or trust. I think it indicates exhaustion based on how long this is going on. I appreciate, again, where the commission is at in terms of what they have to do. Again, didn't sign up for this, and I do not envy your roles. But the threats, the falsities, the monetary motivation, the exaggerations, and the pressured timelines, those need to be put to the side, and we need to look at the facts of what's out here, what we have to do here. There are no other, as I understand it, no other townships near us that have approved solar. I'm not sure why Iosco is looking to be pioneers on this. I'd like to be a leader, but I don't know we need to be the leader on that right now. I do ask that we pause for a bit as we see what else DTE has to present and what else is out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Anyone else in that row that like Debbie's sitting in? Go ahead.
My name is Mary Spence. I live at 8332 Coon Lake Road. I am a no. I think we should let this play out. Did we give them another solar overlay? I thought I heard that in the Buurma letter. Okay, not the one that I live next to that they're referring to, or was that a whole solar? And the other thing, if it plays out, let it play out. Nobody's gone to the MPSC yet. And in that thing that I read,
they wouldn't let people that grow vegetables and stuff like that be in the solar farm area. So that would knock Mr. Buurma right out. And they're only thinking of the money, so is DTE, because they want to get all these dollars, extra dollars from the Green New Deal. And so is the township. I don't see why we're in a big rush for anything. We need to wait and see what plays out. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in that row? No. Okay, so then I'm gonna move to the next row, which I think was we'll start, with you, that row.
I'm good.
Okay, and we'll go on down the line, no? Anyone?
Not at this moment.
No, okay. There is a second call to the public, so if you don't speak now, you feel you need to. I'm just trying to point to people, you can just nod and say no, I don't want to.
You're on this row, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
That's the row. Yeah.
yeah, because you guys are kind of.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
My name is Robert Newman. I live
Yeah,
on
just stand
Watson
up,
Road. I'm
please.
the first house east of Heil Road.
Stand up.
yeah, stand
Am
up,
I,
please.
am I not speaking loud enough?
Well, it just asks that everyone stands up.
I'm the first house east of Heil Road off of Watson. I'm in Unadilla Township. I'm opposed to this whole thing. This is in my backyard, and it is to my west. And I do not want to see solar panels all around my property. It's a great, wonderful wildlife area, turkeys everywhere, coyotes, wildlife like crazy. I have a lot of room for my dogs to run. I'm not interested in solar panels near me. I don't want to look out my back door and see it. That's my opinion. And it's not even efficient. So.
Thank you for your comments.
Yes.
As long as that gentleman there doesn't want to speak.
No, I just hope you guys vote no. I don't think we're being told the truth about all this stuff, and I think there's more consequences that come down the road that we're not being told about. And we don't have the proper research to really prove that right now.
Toxic soil.
Thank you. You're next
That's
now.
Eddie Ross, Lamoureux, been out here since '93. I believe this Green New Deal shit is total BS. I agree with this gentleman over here. There's a volcano, it's about to go off in Alaska to spew so much stuff in the atmosphere. And these people on DTE are gonna try to tax us for the volcano smoke. I'd say vote no.
Thank you. And just on a side note, my daughter lives there in Alaska. She's
Well,
all
I'm just
prepared.
saying.
Do you have any?
She better get a mask.
She's already got a mask and she's all set. Go ahead, sir.
I just want to make a quick comment. This is the second or third meeting that I've been to that 95% have stood up and said no. I'm not sure why there's a question with either board of why nobody wants it. And
Thank you.
You had to write mine down, I'm not very good at speaking ad lib, but, yeah, this is kind of my take on it. I'm not great, the green energy and all that, I'm not a super great proponent of it, but no, I don't love the idea of a solar farm in my backyard, but there's a lot of other things that I would like even less. But that's the thing with having neighbors, there's always going to be something that you don't like. Yes, I would be sad to see Buurma's farm go. We have been there since '93 also, being Buurma's neighbor. And, I don't like everything about the farm either. Like the crop duster on beautiful summer evenings that comes and sprays, and for whatever reason, they use our yard as a pivot point for going back and forth across the field. And I know those chemicals aren't good for us either. Also, there's the black dirt that covers everything around our house when the wind blows. I'm on the west side of the farm. You have the sound of the tractors, the irrigation pumps that practically run 24/7 during the growing season. So there's always something that we're going to have to live with, and I understand that. I've gone to some of the township meetings. I've gone to some of the DTE's informational meetings, and recently DTE invited us to go to Lapeer for a tour of their solar project there. And I was quite disappointed that there was very few people there. My wife and I, and another gentleman, plus Tammy and her husband. That was it. Being there, they had several people there that were telling us what's going on. You could see firsthand what it was, and talk with a couple of the maintenance men. They showed us how it operates, the equipment involved, and what the noise factor is, because you're right there, you can hear it. And honestly, I did not see the giant boogeyman that I've heard about at the township meeting. You know, I'm looking at this as a bird in the hand is better than two in the bush, because I do not believe that solar energy is going to go away, and I do not think that any legislation is going to happen soon enough to take that away. So I think the board should approve this portion of their application, because if they don't, my understanding is that then it gets kicked to the state, and then we still will probably have a solar farm here anyways, but the township will have less input into the design of it, and also DTE will not have as much financial ability to work with those of us directly impacted by the project for screening and such. And we would probably end up with smaller setbacks, which all affect those of us who are directly impacted. Because there's many that aren't directly impacted, because there's not that many houses that are right up against the farm. You know, I don't think that putting a solar farm here will disrupt the rural atmosphere of our township or be as much of a disturbance as, say, putting a subdivision in. You know, I know there are those that do not believe that the property is suitable for that, but the property is very similar to that where they put Burkhart Ridge Mobile Home Park in. There at Burkhart Road in 96. No one thought that it could work there either, but there it is, and it's growing. So to recap, I would like to see the board approve this portion of the application, so then we can see what DTE's real design for the project is actually going to be, you know, to go further into the project.
You took the
We're out
check.
of time.
You got the check.
Okay. So anyone else in that row? No, moving on. And now we'll go to the second row. I'll start over here. No.
Money talks.
Any, sorry, please, let's not intimidate or interrupt. Thank you. Would you like to speak, sir? Yeah. Would you like to? Kim?
Yep. I'm going to go back to one of my original statements, which is that zoning changes are a very big deal. They are a change in the expectations of the area that people live in, the expectations of the neighbors. I want you to be very slow and careful with zoning changes. It is not the same as putting in housing, which meets our zoning. It is not the same as putting in a pole barn on your property, which you have the right to do, but you might have to contact your neighbors and get their approval. It's not the same. It's a big deal. I've had a lot of history of manufacturing and industry doing things that 20 years back in hindsight were atrocious and are paid for cleanup by our federal dollars. These are Superfund sites. I have a long history of them in my entire life. I can tell you a whole story, but it's going to take more than 3 minutes. So I won't. But I will tell you just one example locally. There's a beef farm in Brighton. They put biosolids on their land. It's got PFAS in it. It poisoned their cattle. It poisoned their land. Their land can do nothing. They didn't know it was going to do that. No one said, hey, put this on your land, it's going to poison it. They said, no, it'll be fine. Trust us, everything's fine. I have a long history. Don't trust until you've seen 20 years in the future. Be slow, be careful. We have a lawsuit. We should let that play out. I think you should vote no.
All right, and then I will start. Dan?
Yeah, I'd like to say something. My wife, maybe, all right?
He can say something.
I also took a tour of my own to the DTE place that this gentleman did. Mine was kind of like the backdoor tour. I didn't get the coffee and donuts at the front door. Went out there on a rainy day walking. We were just happened to be going to Port Huron that day. And we walked along a long path that led right alongside a beautiful river. Remember that day, honey? Started raining. I started noticing the runoff from all these solar panels running right into that river. And when you see where the password to all of this, I'm thinking, man, this can't be good. What if these were broken, or this storm created more hazard, broken panels, whatever. Well, as we kept walking, it got raining harder and harder, and I started noticing, when it rains really, really hard, how the water starts to flow. You can see the trenches in this riverbank this wide. That tells me that runoff, and I don't know, these women might know, they've been there several times, but I don't know if they took a walk along that river like I did on the other side of the fence, right? Just think about that and where that's going on our land. Right? We all live along this Cedar River.
Water.
So, you see how high the river is in this township now? What's gonna happen when
It's just gonna wash up.
Burma's land starts to flood?
Are you done?
I'm done. That's all I have to say.
Would you like to say something, sir?
Yeah, I got 3 points of opinion about, I'll just give you the first one, and seconds for closing arguments.
Can you stand, sir? Or
Yes, yes, I can.
If it's too hard, you can sit.
Oh,
I think everyone will be able to.
which one, dude?
It's okay, I'm just trying to be considerate.
I may be the youngest person here, of 30 years old. I was born in 1994, and I might not be as native as a lot of you people here, but as a very young person living here, I remember many warm summers laying down on the grass, eating watermelon and grapes, with the smell of crops and pig manure in the air. And this may just be, what, 10, 20, actually this was actually going back to like the 90s and stuff. But the one thing I don't want to be smelling for the next 20, 30 years is plastic via solar panels. Because I want to keep, Fowlerville how it was, because it's just what I grew up with, and I think that not only should we say no, we should move the solar panels away from our, township as it is to somewhere which is like low or no population and barren as hell, away from our agricultural township as it is. So.
Here, here, brother. Here, here.
Okay. If there's no other comments, I'm going to close the first call to public. Please note that you will have an additional 3 minutes at the end with the second call to public. Okay. The next item on our agenda is the public hearing for a trigger ordinance on May 13th, 2025. And what that is an ordinance to put us in compliance with the state citing so that developers would come to us rather than going directly to state citing. Because right now our ordinance is probably not recognized by the state. We do have an attorney here, so they can always correct me. But I believe that it's non-compliant right now, and to where that developers can go just bypass us and go directly to the state. So that's what that is about on May 13th. Any questions about any of that, you guys? No? Okay. All right, with unfinished business, Ann, I'm gonna ask you, Article 8, the signs, did you and Mark, he did tell me that you guys were kind of filming that up and coming up with something.
Yes, Mark and I have come up with a few ideas. I'm waiting to apply for a little bit further clarification on some of the wording, but I think we are headed in the right direction.
Okay, thank you. So I'm gonna probably just, I'll close that. I'm not gonna add it onto the agenda anymore.
I'll let you know when it's ready to come back. You want to handle it that way?
Yeah.
'Cause at some point, we are going to.
I'll keep it then as a line item, but we won't pay any attention to it, so you let me know, or I can add it back.
However you want to handle it.
Just let me know and then I'll add it back.
Okay, sounds good.
Also, for us here on the township, on the PC board, we have our master plan review. And yes, we're gonna try to begin doing that next month, in between a public hearing. I would ask that, why don't we start out with just the first two chapters, like at home, read, write, put your little notes. I know Patty, you were here, Sherry, were you here when we did it the first time? Yeah, put that for Matt and Alan. And what we'll probably do is I'll contact Mark, and if there's anything major or that, you know, what we mark up or whatever, I'll let him know. And then we can move from there, and if needed, we'll have to call him in and he can help us with the wording and stuff if needed. So just wanted to state that. Okay, the next big one is the DTE Conditional Rezoning requests. I had, like again, I set all this up before we got the supplemental conditions that they added, okay? So this was more like I had thoughts, comments, decisions regarding the public hearing that we had in January, but we have got more conditions from them. So, and I also note too that Mark was reviewing what we did our public hearing on, those initial supplemental request, or the rezoning requests. And I had sent him what DTE sent us, these supplements too, so he's gonna incorporate that into his report. So, he's gonna hopefully have the report in the next week and a half, 2 weeks. Way before our next meeting, but enough, so I will be sending that out to you guys too, to review and, you know, what his ideas are. So, I feel, what, I wanna hear everyone's thoughts. And DTE is here, we will, after we kind of vocalize any ideas or thoughts, or if we don't have any to say, that's fine too. I know I have an idea, but I don't wanna be always the one to say it.
To the chair, would it be helpful for us to walk through what the additional
I'm going to have you guys talk about your supplemental rezoning requests.
Okay.
I just kind of was more wanting them to be able to have some input just on the initial, not
okay.
the supplemental, is what I'm asking from our public hearing, and just thoughts, or if anyone feels like they want to talk about that or not.
Did the attorney go over these?
Mark is going over them he's going over them as the land planner. Not, yeah, these, I just sent them to him yesterday.
No, but the original ones?
Yes, yes, he, remember when he was here in March, and he said that he would review that and wanted to look at the map.
So he hasn't got back to you?
He got back with us saying that he should have that done, within the next couple of weeks. It was gonna be sooner, but I added the supplemental stuff to him too. So, yeah, we'll say the next couple of weeks, I don't wanna end him down. It'll be definitely before our next meeting, okay?
So will the attorney go over?
You are here, that's why I'm going to ask.
Oh, okay.
Our attorney, John Harris is here.
Yeah, what we did was we brought in Mike Homier because he does specialize in solar panels. I brought him in at my recommendation to the board because he spends a lot of time on these things. And so he's been working with the township up to this point. I was asked to be here today to answer any questions this board might have. I was specifically asked, because this was a new submittal with additional conditions, I was asked whether or not I thought another public hearing was necessary. And I do. You have an ordinance, 15-2, that talks about, looking forward here, that when you find that the application materials are complete, the planning commission shall hold a public hearing. And I think the changes, and I've gone over the changes from the original submittal, which was in November, to the ones that were just received, and they're different. I think DTE has now submitted and completed their application process, and I think that you have to have a public hearing on that before you render a decision, yes or no. And perhaps that would be consistent with waiting for Mark's review of those additional conditions, and whether Mike Homier has any comments about those additional conditions as well.
And that's where I was going sort of with Mark, we haven't got his review of it yet. So
Yeah, I would not want you to
I
move
wasn't
forward
planning on
without.
voting on it,
Yeah.
but I like to ask people. And any other?
To the chair?
Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, I have a couple questions. One of them is more planning based, but I have a specific question for our legal counsel here. It's in regards to the exclusionary areas that they've proposed, DTE's proposed. They're generous areas. On the surface, it appears they're not going to be developable without a full process, which I believe would be rezoning. But our overlay for this rezoning decision does encapsulate all those exclusionary areas. So what I'm looking for is assurances from you that what DTE has proposed protects us from further development on those exclusionary areas. Some of those areas wrap right around people's houses, and we cannot have development on those, period. So my big concern and question right now is there MCL that protects us? Is there something in this conditional rezoning proposal that locks that in so that we will not have that developed in the future, unless we want it developed as a township?
So that would bind DTE and the owners of the property with this rezoning and having that exclusionary zoning area, so that you can't develop it. The only way that can be developed is if they come back to the township and request that it be reconsidered. And at that point, it's a yes or a no, and you have to take a look at the application at that time, what the facts and circumstances are at that time. But the way that it's being presented right now is enforceable and cannot be developed because it's all part of the same conditional rezoning plan. This is the benefit of a conditional rezoning, is that you can add conditions that you normally couldn't if you just agreed or were considering a rezoning. When you rezone from one use to another, any permitted use, any use subject to a special use permit is fair game. When you have a conditional rezoning, you can kind of frame it the way that the applicant as well as the township can live with. And I think there's been some discussions in a general sense between DTE and one or more representatives of the township about things that are very important to the township if the board and the planning commission were to consider this use. So I'm a big fan of conditional rezoning, especially in situations like this. So I guess the long answer to the question was, yes, this is enforceable, and there will be no more development on that exclusionary portion unless they come back and request it sometime in the future.
Would they be able to jump directly to the MPSC if you said no?
Depends on when. I don't know enough about that. That's why I brought in Mr. Hornier as to the implications going back and forth between the state control versus local control. So I don't have a definitive answer on that, Matt, so I don't want to guess. I don't want to guess here.
And as a follow-up, there's, in our proposal, in some of our letters from DTE, and in the amendments that we got here, it still mentions a 3-year conditional rezoning for 3 years, and then it expires after 3 years. So how does that fit into they can never develop unless we allow them? Is that rezoning what protects us, or is there an ongoing MCL or something that would protect us from future development?
I guess I don't have the context for this 3-year.
Right here, right, got it.
Here do I.
Isn't it, if it's round?
Number 1 is right next to it. Down towards the
That's what
bottom.
I thought.
It
was
didn't
the
say
after-
road number
after
1
if you
nine.
haven't started after 3
Didn't
years.
say that.
Was how I understood it.
So that may be,
Yeah.
but it didn't say it.
Well, it's less than completely clear, but what generally means is that when you conditionally rezone something, in this case, there's going to have to be a site plan that's going to have to be presented and approved. And if you don't follow through on that by having the development occur during that time period, I'm presuming that that's what that means, is that the zoning reverts back because you didn't follow through with what you said you were going to do.
Presumption is a little bit scary to me.
Well, this is going to be reviewed by both Mike Homier as well as the planner. With just this language that's in here, you know, based on the fact that I've been doing this for a long time, That's what I interpret it to mean, but that's part of the review process that your planner and Mike Cormier will do and make recommendations to the board. But that's my guess based on this language.
You guys are allowed to say, or you're
We'll,
going to.
we'll let
Okay.
the dialogue just go,
Okay.
and we'll present when you're ready for us to
Okay.
present.
Thank you, my questions.
Okay. You guys have any?
No,
We might be referring back with you, John. Right here. Okay, so I think we can safely say we're not voting on anything tonight because we're gonna wait for the review from our land planner
And so we can.
and the public hearing.
Now that it has the
So-
substation on it, this one is not, it's not going both sides of the road there.
Did you just give them the conditional rezone?
Yeah.
I have extras.
Can you talk louder?
I asked him if he gave him the conditional rezoning paperwork, and he said yes, and I said I have extras. You're welcome. Just trying to lighten it up, everybody. Okay, so recapping, we're not gonna vote tonight because we're gonna wait on the review from our land planner. And we are gonna have a public hearing then for the supplemental submissions for the conditional. And just to make it clear, I think this is a good time for us to jump to the new business of those supplemental rezoning. So they're in addition to what we had the public hearing from in January, okay, which I think everyone's familiar with and what we've discussed at the coffee chats. So these are some more conditions, and DT is here to present some of that to us. So you guys have the floor.
Yeah, so, what we submitted on April 1st, we view as a supplement to the rezonings that we filed, one on October 15th and the other on November 26th. So we started with 2 overlay zoning requests. The first request that we came in was for the area that we've been describing as the western parcels, because we were under the impression that the board had put into place the overlay district that basically covers the Buurma Farms acre area, which we've been referring to as the south overlay district. It came to our attention after we filed the first overlay rezoning request that the planning commission had not actually, or the board had not procedurally finished the process of putting into place that south overlay district, and so we needed to submit a second application. So we've had 2 applications here pending. In both cases, our initial applications included a list of conditions, and based on what we have been hearing through the planning commission discussions and public comment, caused us to offer additional supplementary conditions to those original rezoning requests. So from our view, I think it's that we still have 2 rezoning requests, 2 overlay requests, one for the south, one for the west, and we've now expanded the conditions, and that there'll be now an understanding that there's going to be a public hearing in May where people will be able to comment on the totality of each one of those overlay zoning requests. And I guess what I'd just like to take a minute to do is to walk through what we have proposed in each. I'm going to work in reverse order and start with the Buurma Farms one, which is we call it the south overlay request now. The first point in each overlay request is actually the one that Commissioner Ford asked about, and that has to do with the solar exclusion areas. Each of our requests comes with a map that shows yellow hashed areas that are labeled solar exclusion areas. Those are areas where DTE is committing to not install any solar arrays or inverters. The only things that could be placed into those solar exclusion areas would be fencing, like security fencing, which is an agricultural style fencing, landscape screening, and access roads. So we no equipment outside of the solar, outside of the, or within the solar exclusion areas. Those will be areas outside of it. And our understanding of that restriction is the same as Mr. Harris's, which is we are then stuck with that election until we come to the planning commission and the township board and they agree that we should be allowed to do something different. And that's really kind of the uniqueness about this approach, is that it provides, we believe, sort of an extra level of certainty about where this project is going to be heading once we would come in with a special use permit and a site plan. So I just wanted to be super clear that the solar exclusion areas are areas where there will be no equipment, no panels, no inverters. With the solar, with the southern overlay district, there's an area that is in a magenta color. That's the substation site. Again, that's another area where there won't be solar panels and inverters. I would agree with Mr. Harris's interpretation of point 3, which is the part of the conditional rezoning request, which indicates how long the rezoning can remain in place if there's no development. And so the idea is that the condition number 3 would give DTE basically 3 years to potentially get all of its engineering work done and get started on access roads. If they achieve that within 3 years of publication of the ordinance enacting the overlay district, then their rights to continue to use the land consistent with the rezoning would continue. But if that vesting of the rezoning didn't happen within that 3-year period, their rezoning would revert, and there would be no solar overlay district in place for anybody to avail themselves of. Somebody would need to return to the township and make a renewed request for that solar overlay to be put into place. We've added a couple additional conditions, similar for both south and west, but I want to walk through them because there is one difference, and I don't want to be left unmade clear with respect to the South District. With the South Overlay District, we are proposing sound levels associated with equipment within the solar array security fence will not exceed 45 dBA LEQ, 1 hour is the measurement period, at any point along the overlay district boundary. So we're looking at what are the sound levels of the equipment that's within the fence, and what is the sound limit that will apply at the overlay district boundary. And we have proposed it be no more than 45 dBA. Act 233 puts that number at 55 dBA at the outside of a dwelling. So this is a significant improvement in ambient sound levels that we are prepared to commit to. And in the case of the South District, that would be measured at the overlay district boundary. And the reason for that is because of the configuration of the Buurma properties and some of the real tight areas that we have in that. And you can tell that from our solar exclusion overlay proposals for the South District. They're slightly different configurations than what we're able to achieve in the West. The next additional condition is that DT will offer to meet with each non-participating landowner who shares a property line with a participating parcel to evaluate viewshed impacts and landscape screening options to mitigate impacts where existing vegetation is deemed insufficient. We've been doing this recently on a lot of our projects with a great deal of success, because what we are finding is that non-participants have different views about what they want to see out their window or they don't want to see out their window. And the better approach has been to go ask them what they want to see in terms of screening and what their viewshed concerns are, rather than trying to guess what might help satisfy them. So that would be one of our additional conditions. Just to explain how we've implemented this on other projects, is we've literally had our site manager go out with maps and with landscape options and sit down, meet with the landowner, and have the landowner sign off on what their preferences are. And then we bring that information back to the township, so there's full transparency and disclosure about the types of conversations that we're having and the feedback that we're getting. The next one, I think goes to the question of, I think the question that trustee Miller asked about, you know, how do we, does this solar overlay district stop them from going to the state? DTE has been here talking with this planning commission for more than 2 years because we've been trying to find the workable path to doing a project here. One of the things that we've added as a condition to the rezoning is that DTE will not construct or operate a large solar energy system, large SES, it's how your ordinance refers to it, outside of an authorized solar energy system overlay district. So this condition is really our commitment to continue to honor the township's zoning regulations. And if we were to violate this condition, it would give you grounds to potentially revoke or modify DTE's eventual special land use permit. And that really relates to the 7th condition that we've added, which states that if a special land use permit for a large SES, which is located within the large solar energy system overlay district, is modified or revoked by the Iosco Township Planning Commission or Board of Trustees, whoever you know is charged with making that decision, the modification or revocation is upheld by a final non-appealable order of a court having jurisdiction. That would likely be the Livingston County Circuit Court. The large energy system overlay district automatically terminates, and the large solar energy system must be decommissioned in accordance with the decommissioning agreement between the Township Board and DTE. And the reason for this condition is one, for us to acknowledge the jurisdictional authority of the township over the project. Secondarily, there is a provision of state law that was added along with Act 233. It's called Act 234. And what it says is that if a township revokes or modifies a special land use permit that's granted for a renewable facility after January 1st of 2022, it's automatically treated as a non-conforming use and can continue at the election of the owner or the operator of the non-conforming facility. This condition essentially makes that provision unavailable to us, because we won't be able to claim non-conforming use status. If there is a revocation or modification, we've agreed to honor any final decision of a court that reviews that decision. So that's the 7th condition that we've added for the south conditional overlay. The conditions that we've added to the west overlay are similar in terms of the same 7th condition regarding modification and revocation and not being able to avail ourselves of Act 234 and being able to continue as a non-conforming use. It also includes the not constructing or operating outside of Iosco Township Overlay Solar District. Again, addressing that concern about, is this a backdoor to state siting some part of the project? It's not our intention for that to be the case. Where the west overlay conditions differ from the south overlay conditions relates to sound. And we are proposing the same maximum sound level of 45 dBA, LEQ, 1 hour. But in that case, because of the solar exclusion areas that we're working with, we can commit that that sound level will not be exceeded at any of the security fences. So we won't even be looking at that sound level at the perimeter of the overlay district, which is further out than the fences. That sound level will be measured at the fences within the solar energy overlay district.
So I had a little bit of a question on I guess it's 7 in the south, 4 in the west. Because I just have a note that I wrote when I read it. I just put, this is the thoughts in Tammy's head. So if by court order, because DTE wasn't upholding like the site plan or the special land use, if we got that far, we could have that solar removed. Is that what that's saying?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay, what if it was operating for 10 years and then something went really bad? I'm just throwing that out there.
so what this is intended to address is the situation of a zoning violation. That somehow, because ultimately, there is these conditions that are being baked in as conditions that are gonna run with the land, that can only be changed with an application from DTE and the consent of the township. The next step that follows here would be DTE filing a special land use application that includes a site plan. That zoning process in itself will provide opportunities for the planning commission to include conditions along with any action that they might take. Those conditions are things that DTE will have to abide by in its operations. And so it would be a violation likely of those kinds of conditions, or even one of the conditional rezoning conditions that would put the township, in a position where they would consider whether or not there needed to be notice that they were going to consider modification or revocation of the special use permit. I think your township attorney would agree, if you're going to revoke a permit, you got to have due process. So you got to have a hearing, and people have to present evidence, and there should be review by a court. But what we're saying is that if we were ever to be found in that position, which we really believe we will not, we would follow the law. And that, it would be due process, review by a court, and if the court agreed with the township, we're not going to lean into Act 234 and say, nope, we're a non-conforming use, we can continue.
Okay. John, would you like to agree, disagree, or?
No, I agree with everything she said. It's important to have the decommission agreement as part of this process, because that obligates them, if that use is discontinued or if it has been revoked appropriately, for them to get rid of what they put on the property. They don't just get to walk away. So the decommissioning agreement is a significant part of it.
Yeah, and the decommissioning agreement is required by the special use provisions that apply to solar energy facilities in the township. So what we find is that we submit often a form decommissioning agreement with our special land use application, so people can have a sense of what it might include. And then it's something that is negotiated with the township attorney, and ultimately approved by the board if they find it to be satisfactory and the attorney has to.
Just one point that hasn't been brought up yet, with the special land use, you have your application for rezoning, you also should be providing a site plan at the same time. Your ordinance requires that, section 15.2. However, and it's not being proposed here, and I guess DTE wants to see what the result is in terms of the rezoning request before it invests the money into a pretty significant site plan. Not an unusual request. Your ordinance, section 20.2, gives you the discretion to put in a conditional approval on the rezoning request that would be contingent upon approval of a site plan within a certain amount of period of time. So if you are considering this proposal, I would want to also have there a contingency that a site plan has to be presented and approved within a certain time frame. So the site plan, again, is not being presented as a part of this rezoning request, understandable, but if you were to entertain this application, then you want to make it contingent upon the site plan.
What would be a reasonable site, to get the?
I'd want to ask the applicant how long they think it would take them to put that site plan together for this specific site. And I want to know what they would have to think first, and then we can have a conversation.
And I will ask our engineering team for an update on what their thinking is, and I can provide that information at the next meeting.
I think it would be helpful.
Really the engineering process that we go to, the way the process works, just for the benefit, because now knowledge is power, is that there is no real engineering, there's conceptual engineering that happens at this phase where we're trying to figure out, do we have a project here or not? Can we make something work? But the real engineering happens at a point in time once we know that we have land that we can move forward with, so that an EPC, it's short for equipment procurement and construction contractor, is hired, and that company partners with DTE to take the entire project from engineering to construction, including all the equipment procurement. So that team has not been hired for this project yet, but the engineering group should be able to give me an idea of what the time frame would flow from them being retained to them getting to a set of drawings that can be submitted as part of a site plan.
Okay, and then one other, because my mind does go to other scenarios, like with this conditional rezone, these supplements, especially the one about the court order, thing. If we were to say, okay, yeah, we're not doing this and it goes to state citing, how is that affected, like this, that we, do we have that same, we don't have that kind of power at all? I just wanted to. Okay. And John, I'm gonna ask you to clarify. Because
Yeah,
every time I
you know-
ask her for questions, you're here to represent us, so.
So, I think someone has honestly said tonight that there have been no project yet that have gone through the MPSC process, so we have some idea of what we think that process is gonna look like. It's a contested case, it's gonna involve witness lists and expert witnesses, but the state's gonna get all that done in 12 months, they say. But, we have yet to see that process unfold. But the state is gonna be approaching this with a different rule book and a different set of standards in mind and a mandate to approve projects.
You lose control. It's as simple as that. At the state level, the reason that they are trying to take over various aspects of zoning is because of local opposition, and projects don't get completed. And so the state says, we're gonna take over. Oil wells, other aspects are being taken over at the state level. And so I do think, I don't have an opinion on the project, but if you can work with a developer and not like but live with the conditions that are attached, you retain that element of control. I hear a lot of comments, and I respect the fact that people don't like change, especially in rural communities. But as a township, you plan, you have a master plan, you have zoning districts, but you then sit back and wait for people to come forward with specific requests. And then you have to evaluate that specific request at that time. And so you are in a reactionary situation. If you want to look out your back door and always see turkeys out there, well, then you're going to need to buy the property next door. Because you just can't control what someone else does on their property. Now, an application may come forward and you go, that's a horrible idea, and we turn it down for valid reasons that you set forth in your reasons. But if it's something that you think, well, maybe that works, well, then you approve that project. But township can plan, but then it reacts to what is presented to it. And you're reacting to what has been presented to you here with this conditional rezoning request. And you have to evaluate it. Your job is to administratively evaluate the request and either approve or deny based on defensible reasons.
Thank you. Do you guys have anything else you'd like?
No, I just wanted to make sure that there was a clear understanding as the planning commission starts contemplating this request over the next month, that we were all clear on what the intention was. And I'll admit, maybe an extra phrase in the vesting paragraph would have made it just a touch more clear what was intended. But you and I knew where I was going, which is this could elapse after 3 years if nothing happens, and then you don't have to worry about somebody coming in and stepping into the approval that DTE obtained. And 3 years is ample time for us to get plans done and to get into the ground and to start work. And so that's what we tried to do, is also keep it to as short a reasonable window of time as we could, so it wasn't sitting out there longer than you would feel comfortable with. We really tried to keep it minimal.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we're on to any last words.
I do not.
All right, so then the next item on the agenda, we'll close that, that was basically our new business, discussing those supplemental rezoning requests. We're gonna have, our next meeting is gonna be May 13th, and we're gonna have a public hearing for the trigger ordinance, and then that brings me to my next question, I did write it down. What about the public hearing from these conditional reasons? We're gonna have it in May, at the May meeting, where we're gonna review the master plan. I mean, I'm feeling overwhelmed. I know we were pretty much at capacity last time. amount of people, or do we still wanna try to have it here, but have it on a, I mean, I could say I'd like to have it at a different venue, but I need the, I need those resources. I guess that's what I'm asking. What do you guys wanna do? I mean, you wanna try?
Both of those subjects are gonna.
I mean, we're gonna be
They're
just
gonna be big,
slammed,
yeah.
and we won't be able to get to anything. I mean, that's just the logistics
I mean,
of
for
it.
the public hearing, I would really like to see us focus on that public hearing rather than throw another big thing in on it, so I wouldn't wanna have them both the same meeting. I personally, I think this is a pretty big venue, if you get here in time, you gotta see, I don't know.
So are you proposing?
I think we should have separate meetings for for the future land use and for the special, public hearing on the solar. Just my opinion. Can we get both those subjects out of the way in one meeting?
Say that again. You said the special land use. Are you talking about master plan, or are you talking about?
Well, we got the
trigger
master plan
ordinance?
and the solar ordinance, yeah,
Okay.
and so,
There's the trigger ordinance, and then there's this conditional rezone.
exactly, and then we have a master plan.
And then there's-
So we got three big things coming up.
Okay.
So trigger ordinance and master plan, or trigger ordinance and the solar plan goes together with both of those. The public hearing for the solar, so.
Are you guys available to do an extra date to go over the master plan here?
I am.
I mean, it might be, then we can do the trigger ordinance, public hearing, and then the conditional rezone in May, within the meeting. I mean, Mark, our land planner, does like it for us to, that's kind of like the newer way of doing it, is having your public hearings within your planning commission meeting.
So we can do both public hearings?
Yeah, we
at
can't do
once?
any more than two. No, we'll do one, I'll break it out. There's the public hearing for the trigger ordinance, correct me if I'm, and then there'll be a public hearing for the supplemental conditional rezones. So there'll be two, I'll start it for one, however long that lasts, and then I'll hit the clock and we'll start conditional with supplements. Okay. That might be easier than trying to get a venue and everything for a public hearing. If we just do the master plan together, and just at a different time. And I don't remember, does the public have to be present when we review that, or? I don't think so. I think
If you're all gonna be here, it's a public meeting.
Okay, well, I guess we can publish that, like, we gotta figure out a date and just put that out and go through it. Anyone know what their schedules look like?
I'm open here at
Okay. Or what about the end of April? Can we do the end of April?
I'm pretty flexible.
Yeah.
You want to keep the 7 o'clock time, or do you 6 o'clock time? 7 o'clock time
So-
works? Okay. Let me get to the calendar. What about, when is the township meeting?
This month?
Yeah, for April.
Board 17th.
It's April 17th. What about, I'm open on Tuesday, April 22nd, or Tuesday, April 29th, and nobody's using the hall, right? During those times?
I doubt it, we can double check, but I doubt it.
Okay. I'm fine with actually picking April 22nd and April 29th, and we can just,
Let's
if
do
you
it.
guys are good with
I
that.
can't do the 29th. I can do
Okay, we'll do April 22nd, will be our first date.
And that's gonna be master plan.
Just the master plan, that's all it is. I don't know how we'll do that as a meeting, or how we take minutes. I guess I'll just open it up, and close it, but that's all we're going to do. Review. And what about, let's see, we're going to May. I guess I'm just pushing it here, we could pick an extra day. What about May 20th? Is people open on that day, or?
Should be.
Okay. And then we'll see if things calm down, and we can start running it back into the regular planning commission.
So what are you gonna do the 22nd, chapter 1 and 2?
Yeah, and then we'll see how good we are. So we'll do 2 more chapters on the 20th of May. But again, I guess I asked that we review it at home so that we come prepared. All right, and Ann, I guess I can or I can talk with Julie and just make sure that we are good on those 2 days, and I'll let you guys know if those days work. So 7 o'clock here on April 22nd and May 20th for master plan review. And we'll do public hearing for, again, the trigger ordinance and the conditional supplemental rezone requests from DTE next month, May 13th. Okay, Township Board report, next item.
What you said was the public hearing for the trigger ordinance was moved to May 13th at 7. There will be a solar update in the newsletter set out with the trash bill. The board had a discussion about member contact with DTE, and there was a motion made to have no contact with DTE outside of public hearing, and the motion failed due to lack of a second. And Gorski's hauling for spring cleanup and CJ's lawn care was accepted for the 25 bid. And the board reviewed the 24-25 amended budget and approved the proposal for the 25-26 budget. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Ann?
I don't, just so you know, I don't see anything on the township calendar that conflicts with one of those extra meeting dates at the moment.
Because do we have to, like, someone is supposed to let know so that, like, nobody does book anything?
Just
like,
let
do we
Julie
reserve it,
know.
like, we'll reserve, let Julie
Yeah,
know?
yeah, let Julie know, because it's gotta be posted anyway that we're having extra meetings. Okay, back to zoning. I have issued 10 permits for the year so far. 2 of those are for new dwellings. In addition to those, I've issued 2 waivers. I have worked on a complaint on Coon Lake Road, which I believe has been resolved. I have a brand new complaint on Bradley Road that I started investigating today. And that's all I got right now.
Okay. Thank you. And we don't have any ZBA
It is the 16th.
of May?
Yes. No, April, sorry.
April,
next
sorry,
week.
April. Okay. All right, with that, we are at our second call to the public, so if you did not speak the first time, you can speak. And if you did speak the first time, you can speak again, and you have 3 minutes. And I'll start with the front, since I started with the back earlier.
Unless you got something down here, I got something to say. Unless you guys want to start first. I have 2 points. One's a motion, and the second one is a public announcement. Either one you want to hear first. My first motion is that I have seen this pickleball thing here for a while, and there are those who can, there are those who can't play pickleball. But I think it has the potential to be much more than a pickleball court. So I want to make a motion to make it a multi-purpose court, as in making it possible for people to play such as wiffle ball and tennis on the court, being in mind that all the other rules apply, like only soft sole, no horse playing, and being mindful to not only the ground you play on, but also the netting as well. But like I said, to make it multi-purpose, so more people could be involved, so more people will come to this park, and more people will know that it exists in such sport. And to your, as my opinion, and I want to put towards the board to make a motion of it in future meetings to approve or disapprove, because I think that has a lot of potential. I just don't think pickleball is going to be the only thing it could be possible of.
There's nothing precluding anyone from doing badminton or anything on there, is there? I think you're allowed to, just because it says pickleball on
Well,
it.
tennis as well, you know.
Yeah, I think as long as you're not being
It's tennis.
destructive to it, you're not doing bowling balls or something,
No,
I think it's totally fine to go over
not
there with a
bowling
wiffle
balls.
ball thing or.
Badminton, wiffle ball,
Yeah.
tennis,
I think you're allowed to
soft
do that.
stuff like that. My second is more of a public announcement. As people may not know, I have been working, I'm a working man. I work at 24/7 gas station that as of, as now, on 31st of May, we are going to be having our next annual picnic, which is going to take place at the Fowlerville Baseball Park up this way, where the Mugga Box is. And to anybody who's affiliated with Mugga Box employees or friends or equivalents that is prior, that know that it is there and that, well, generally just trying to get more people in the seats than less because we had a very small turnout last time. And hopefully we get a bigger turnout as I am spreading the word, just that said on.
So it's a picnic, and what day is that again?
That is the 30th of May at the Fowlerville on Countryway / Mugga Box on the baseball field. I don't know where on the field they're doing it, but it's not going to escape up the dugout or sand part of it, on wherever it's going to go about itself on. And of course, catering will be included, to anybody who cares about catering. But yeah, just putting out the word to put more, seats in, because last time there was not that big of a showing.
Okay, we got it written down, and the May 30th, the Countryway
May
picnic.
30th, over at Countryway Mugga Box.
Your 3 minutes is up. Thank
Sorry.
you. Oh, you're okay, it's fine. It's a good thing. It's better than hearing about all the solar.
Yeah. Big job.
Anyone else in this first row? Second row? Anyone would like to say anything? The third row?
Third row, I'm Eddie, like last DTE, how many solar farms are on Whitmore's property, and Benson's property, and Slotkin's property? And I wonder just if they could let me know if they approve of that stuff. Thank you.
Anyone else in that third row?
No answer?
Anything to say? You know what, sir, just to clarify, during public comment, you're supposed to address your comments to the chair.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And, yeah, it's so you can voice your opinions.
Okay.
So you won't get answers if you're looking for them that way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think I'm done with the third row, if no one else, so then we'll go to the fourth row. Go ahead, Mary.
Hi, Mary Spence. I was just wondering, could we make the proposed solar field smaller? If that could be entertained?
Go ahead, Bill.
Tammy, I'm so proud of you about looking up that Palisades nuclear power plant, posted it on Facebook. And I'm just wondering, my take on the thing was that it could be very, very dangerous to human beings, leaching whatever it is that comes out of those things. And, I just wonder what the EPA has going on for the protection against the leaching of these these panels into the ground, these heavy metals. And they build a dump, or they put protection underneath everything, so if something leaches in it won't go down into the groundwater. And I'm just curious if, I haven't heard anyone say anything about that. I mean, I heard them say leaching, but why can't they protect the water from, you know, is there a law out there? Has anybody even looked about the EPA to see what happens, what their plan is, or what their rules are about leaching solar panels into the ground and into the groundwater? So,
We can talk after. Do you have anything else to say?
that's it.
Anyone else after Bill? And then I see someone out there. No? He had his hand up first, Greg.
Thank you. I know I'm not supposed to direct it to John, but I'm going to direct it to John.
Well, not in this instance.
And I'll just address it to you as well, Tammy, because I think in the ordinance, if I read the ordinance right from the township, it talks about Article 15 and subsection F, and it says required. And when I assume that when an application comes in and you write an ordinance, then you're supposed to follow the process. So maybe I've got it wrong, maybe John can correct me, or Tammy, maybe you can correct me, but is Article 15 and subsection F being obtained, is that included? Because I'm gonna say that I'm not sure why the site, I think the site plan is included, it's supposed to be included. It doesn't say maybe, it doesn't say, it says required. And I don't understand why that's not the case. Secondly, I assume that the board, Tammy, you should be very familiar with this, 125.3502. Are you familiar with that? Okay, well you might want to be, because that's the land use on the MCLs, and you need to make sure you can check the boxes off on every one of those, because if you don't document the entire process completely, it then leads to something called 125.3606, which I'm sure John is familiar with this, that then leads to potential lawsuits. So I'm assuming that because of the bigness of this issue, we're just trying to make sure that all processes are being followed, because it is a big project, that we don't skip any steps. Because if you skip steps, I assume, then you fall into the inadequate place. And I think what happens if you fall if you're inadequate to what you're expected to do, which is supported by competent material, substantial evidence, that in fact both reviewing courts can look at it, and I think you need to make sure that this has got a bow on it, and it's presented appropriately, and it's not just word of mouth that you guys are saying yay to, that you have a document that supports each one of your positions. And I would assume that John's already advised you on that, and if he hasn't, I assume that he'll probably, hopefully, help you guys on that trail, because I don't know how you do all this and put it into a box and vote on something without having the supporting documentation that you might have to present to an attorney or to a judge in the circuit court here in Livingston County. So just want to make sure that you guys are aware of that, because I didn't know if you guys were or were not.
I can just say that you've got a planner and you've got an attorney who specializes in the solar arena to advise on this recent submittal that's just come in. And that's why I recommended to the Planning Commission that there be another public hearing, because the ordinance does require, when you have a completed application, that you then have a public hearing. So even though there was one before, these new conditions, I believe, triggered it, especially with a sensitive subject like this. Mike Homier and your planner are taking a look at the specifics of both your ordinance as well as the application, and it's their job to make sure that, you know, the i's are dotted and the t's are crossed, and advice is given to the township board as well as the planning commission for them to make whatever decision they're going to make. And you are correct, whether it's approval of the project or it's disapproval of the project, it's got to be supported by competent material evidence. There's no questions. But those consultants know that, and that's their job. Okay.
Thank you, John.
Go ahead, Debbie.
I do want to thank the Planning Commission for having Mr. Harris here. I know it's been requested several times to have legal counsel here, so representing the township. So thank you for that. For clarification, Tammy, can you rattle off those dates for the possible public hearings and what those topics were again? I didn't seem to track that.
Oh, the public hearings for the trigger ordinance, which is the state, making us state compliant, and also for the conditional supplemental rezoning requests from DTE, will be at our May 13th meeting.
Okay, so both of those. Okay.
Yes, and we'll do one at a time. We'll do first the trigger ordinance, and then we'll talk about, you know, you can make their comments, and then we'll stop the clock, and then I'll do another public hearing clarifying that it's for the supplemental rezoning requests that they just gave us on April 1st.
Okay, and the master plan?
The master plan, those dates are gonna be April 22nd and May 20th, and it'll be 7 o'clock, and it'll be here, and we'll just be working on them and talking about it. I don't really think there'll be any public input or anything like that. It's gonna be more of us working, and you guys are welcome to listen.
Okay. Was there any entertainment of the survey for the public to be able to opine and give feedback for the master plan? Brought it up a couple of meetings ago.
Haven't even got to that because we.
All right, I'm just gonna plant that seed again.
All right,
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Okay, go ahead, Ann.
So, I'm wondering, is our process for this conditional rezoning, is it to accept amendments or, you know, modifications? Or is our process, the package is submitted, you either accept it or reject it. If you reject it, you allow them to amend it and then resubmit it. So that way you always know what the package is. You know, it doesn't change, because otherwise you have creep. So I'm wondering if that is the normal process for a conditional rezoning? You accept and reject and not accept amendments. That way it makes it very clear, this is what the package is.
You want to address that, John?
Yeah, conditional rezoning is kind of an interesting process. Used to be called spot zoning, which you weren't allowed to do, but now the legislature has allowed it. The conditional rezoning is a method of being able to control the development itself. And so, now, give me the point again. What was the question again then?
I think what Ann was trying to say is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but go ahead.
Yeah, so the question is should the original package be accepted or rejected? There's only two options. And then if it's rejected, they can resubmit it with their modifications, and then it becomes a new package, which is either accepted or rejected.
That is an option, but conditional rezoning is interesting because it's supposed to be a proposal made by the landowner to the township. But it always is kind of a discussion. The landowner is in these hearings, hear what the concerns are, and they then amend their proposal to reflect and try to address those concerns. As long as the board and the planning commission don't act on that original application, it's still pending. It just isn't, you know, if the applicant doesn't go and say, I want this to be heard, I need your decision on this, it's just a proposal that's out there that has not actually been acted upon. So until it's acted upon, they can make as many amendments as they want. If they come to the next meeting and say, I'm going to make another amendment, they can do that, because the board hasn't acted on it yet. If the board acts on it, and then they want to make changes and submit a new submittal, then we start all over again.
But the board accepted the package as is.
Well, you can accept the package, but until you act on it, it's not official. You're just opening up a file within the township and you're putting it in there and saying, you let us know when you want to put this on the agenda for us to actually make a decision. Okay?
So how do you control what it creeps and evolves into? I mean, you know, as far as revisions and things like that.
Well, from what I understand, this revision or amendment that's been set, this is it. This is what they're proposing. And it's being looked at by the planner and the specialist on the solar ordinance, and they're going to make recommendations to the planning commission. We'll then make a recommendation to the board as to whether to accept or reject. So as to this particular project, we had an original submittal in October and November, a current one in early April, and this is the one they're proposing. So this is the one that's going to be evaluated by the planning commission to get their recommendations.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Todd, any comments? No?
No.
I just saw you back.
You know where I stand.
Anyone else in this row over here? Anyone in the back? Want to say anything else? Go ahead.
Hi,
I'm your neighbor from Shiawassee County, and I just want to point out a few things. You know, I worked as a technician for another utility at the time. In that time, we were a monopoly too. And so I watched the Lapeer solar park get built, and there's some discrepancies about what, you know, about the shining city on the hill there. Let me explain at least 4 reasons why it's different than this situation. The first being, it backs up to a prison and a freeway. So you're not gonna get any people complaining about it. And and the property was owned completely by the city of Lapeer. And even with those specific details, there still was protested. Now this, I think it was constructed back in 2016, so people weren't aware of what was really happening until the pylons started getting hammered home. Okay, so I'd let, you know, and that's DTE, you know, let's bring you out here. They don't bring people out to the Assembly solar site, but Livingston County did, and people were enthused about that too. And I encourage anybody to, who's interested in the real side of solar to visit the Assembly solar site, because there the inverters are still causing problems, and the people, when the county and the townships try to decide who's gonna handle the complaints about it, there's gonna be a lawsuit. Now, and this is probably 5 or 6 years that Assembly industrial site's been running. Okay, so this conditional offer that DTE's made doesn't preclude them from, or doesn't preclude other developers from coming in and developing. And, you know, I think in Cohocton Conway Township, the idea that they're fighting and forcing Ranger Power to the mat is keeping other developers out. In fact, I know Sears is one of the biggest ag landowners in the state for sure, and it's absentee landowners. I'm 500 feet from where some of their property is, and they leased that out for solar, and so far there's been no activity. Why? Because they can't hook up across the road from Ranger. So it doesn't preclude them, other developers, and right now we have over 6 developers in Shiawassee County, in addition to Ranger, strafing us, trying to get wind and solar. So once you open the door to Pandora's box, you're not going to shut it, okay? So that's something that you need to be aware of too, and I'm sure you've all thought about this, but I'm just trying to remind you. And, you know, I don't have enough time to tell you about the dark side of solar, but we know it's not efficient. In fact, the idea that DTE is going to, that's it.
Talk. You got 3
You
minutes.
can have 1 minute.
3 seconds.
All right, the idea that DTE is going to build battery storage in what formerly Trenton Stacks, which is downriver, is ridiculous. That should go nuclear. Nuclear can accomplish on probably 1/10 the property that solar can, and it's way more efficient. Yes, it's more expensive in the short run, but it's well worth it. It's 80 years. This stuff will come down in 20 years. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. And I think it should be nuclear fusion should be the future. I think it should be nuclear fusion in the future. Is there any other public comments before?
Yeah, blown fish by then.
Anyone? Do you understand the difference between fission and fusion? The byproduct of fission versus the byproduct of fusion? And they scaled it up to a medium level versus the low level that they would do, like hydrogen cell cars. If water is the byproduct of fusion. Nuclear waste is the byproduct of fission, splitting of atoms. That's my PC member comments. And I'm going to close the public hearing. And if anyone has anything they'd like to say.
Just to tie bit of what I was saying, all I'm proposing is that we have a new sign that says multi-purpose court that allows for different, forms of whatnot on that court, such as badminton or tennis to be played. Ergo, a new sign that says multi-purpose instead of just one purpose.
Okay, we're going to adjourn the meeting, and that's at
24th.